So we're learning more tonight about what led up to Loudoun County School Board members shutting down a heated meeting Tuesday. We showed you this, where parents showed up to share their opinions on transgender policy, critical race theory being taught to their children. One person was arrested for resisting arrest and allegedly physically threatening another attendee. Well, the LCPS superintendent then cut the meeting short, declared it an unlawful assembly. So another person was later arrested for refusing to leave after that happened and given a summons for trespassing. Now, that man, John Tigas, talked about what happened with our own Tucker Carlson tonight.
We were supposed to go until 7, until the school board heard something they didn't like, and the net result was they shut it down.
Loudoun County, not the only school district with deep disagreements on these issues. Hundreds of people also attended a board meeting in Fort Worth, Texas last night to discuss CRT. Some attendees argued the subject matter wrongly victimizes minority students. Well, tonight it appears there's a growing trend, parents digging in to find out the details of what is going on in their children's schools. And in some cases, like we covered in Randolph Township up in New Jersey, their coordinated efforts in opposing school board policy has been successful. So let's talk about that and our other top story, the president's plan to shut down crime by getting tougher on guns, with our Bream Team panel for tonight. So Rob Amari, author of The Unbroken Thread, and Brandon Tatum, former police officer and author of Beaten Black and Blue, Being a Black Cop in an America Under Siege. Gentlemen, thank you both for being with us tonight. Great to have you back.
Thanks, Shannon.
Okay, so I want to start with this. Our Mike Emanuel was out at the meeting last night and got, some of the sound that was coming in from parents who were not happy about what they were hearing. And before the meeting got shut down, there were 250 plus people signed up to speak, and I think about 50 or so got to before it got out of hand. I want to play something that Mike got from an unnamed parent last night who said, don't assume that my kid is oppressed.
My child is not oppressed, and don't assume that. As long as you Marxists push your unconstitutional agenda on my child, she will not be returning back to Loudoun County schools.
Okay, so Brandon, that mom says her child is not going back if what they're teaching is what she makes it out to be, which she described as Marxism. What do you make of this fight that's going on?
Well, kudos to that parent. You know, we need to stand up for our children. We need to hold these school districts accountable. They shouldn't be teaching garbage in our schools like that. You know, we don't live in an oppressed nation, and there's no reason to be subjugating young people to being a victim forever. You're never going to make it in life like that. You're definitely not going to make it in the United States of America. So shout out to the parents who go out and show up. And I think it's a great thing. They need to continue to do that. I wish we would have done it before it got to this point where we're all riled up and ready to, throw these people out of the school. But I think it's an honest thing, and we need to consistently go and hold them accountable, stand up for our children. And if they don't do what we expect them to do in the school district, take our children out.
Well, and a lot of folks are saying, listen, this is a right-wing conspiracy. This is a rallying cry for conservatives, and it's not actually what's going on in schools. There's no such thing as CRT that's being taught. In fact, this is Brenda Sheridan. She is a member of that Loudoun County School Board, and this is her defense of all the pushback that they're getting. Here's what she said tonight.
We are being promoted as something we are not, teaching something we are not, and asking people to reflect on their own lives and the ease with which they are able to succeed compared to someone who has been part of a marginalized group is uncomfortable.
Okay, so Rob, what are we getting here? I mean, is there something that parents are accurately describing as CRT? Is this a boogeyman? What's happening?
Shannon, it's absolutely a real thing, and parents are being gaslighted by Democratic politicians, by their media allies, are saying that they don't get what's being taught to their children. Listen, especially over the past year, thanks to the pandemic, parents got a front row seat to what their children are being taught. And this is not, for example, the history of racism or denunciations of racism. It's not the history of slavery or Jim Crow. Parents of all races are happy to have their children learn about that, to have their children understand why all of that was a stain on our nation. This is something else. This is telling that there are two groups of Americans, and depending on their skin color, one group are oppressors, and one group are permanent victims. And that's incredibly anti-American. Some of the trainings are racially segregated. The idea that, for example, 4-year-olds have to unpack their racial privileges is deeply, deeply radical and un-American. So when American parents hear that you don't get CRT, it's not what you think it is, it's just about diversity training, it's just about teaching our past, that's a lie, and we're being gaslighted. And so I'm incredibly cheered by this uprising of parents across the country, including, as you noted, Shannon, many African American parents who don't want to be told that their children are permanent victims and that they're utterly oppressed. That's just, as I said, it's an un-American idea. And so this uprising is very healthy. And it gives me a lot of hope about the future of this country, frankly, because this is poison propaganda. It's not teaching diversity training. It's not teaching anti-racism. This is something else. This is a kind of neo-Marxism.
Okay, Brandon, you touched on some of those themes too. I want to make sure to get some reaction from you, Brandon, tonight to what the president is saying, because you've been on the front lines. You have served our community by being a police officer in uniform. Here's what he said in his speech today about getting a hold of crime, which is clearly in some cities soaring right now. Here's the president.
No one needs to have a weapon that can fire over 30, 40, 50, even up to 100 rounds. Unless you think the deer are wearing Kevlar vests or something. Community policing and programs that keep neighborhoods safe and keep folks out of trouble. These efforts work, they save lives.
So, Brandon, he talked about a lot of things, but a lot of emphasis on gun control today, and he's there talking about hunting and deer wearing Kevlar vests. I mean, when I was in law school, I didn't learn that the Second Amendment was about hunting. But listen, you've been on the front lines, so I'd like to get your take on what the president said today.
Well, I don't know if the speechwriter is the dumbest person in the world or Joe Biden is the dumbest person in the world, but anybody with common sense know that what he's explaining about deer and hunting and the Second Amendment is asinine. You know, you're not going to curb crime by stopping law-abiding citizens for having guns. I mean, just use common sense. If you don't care about killing people, you definitely don't care about illegally being in possession of a firearm. So therefore, the laws are not going to stop criminals. I don't understand how we don't see that at this point. What we do need to focus on is people who are committing the crimes. The gun is not the problem. The person with the gun is the problem. And for him to go out and say a gun shouldn't have 100 rounds, well, Joe Biden, if you have two magazines with 30 rounds apiece, that's 60. You put 3 in there, then now you can shoot up as many people as you want to. So how ignorant is it that you are worried about a single capacity magazine when you're not looking at the totality of circumstances? Most people are shot and killed by handguns, not even rifles. And then most people who are killed due to suicide, self-inflicting wounds. It has nothing to do with the American population going out and massively killing people. Also, do the math. When we started talking about defunding the police, when they start demoralizing law enforcement in this country, we see crime go up. It goes out of control. The gun laws have not changed in the last couple of years. It's been the rhetoric against police officers. And if you keep bashing them, they're not going to proactively police. They're going to leave the police department at astronomical numbers. And these communities are just going to get shot up every weekend because you don't have people there to protect and serve. So if he really wanted to make a difference, stop focusing on foolishness and start empowering and emboldening police officers, funding them so they can protect the community the way we believe that they were supposed to do from the very beginning.
Yeah, and some of these most vulnerable communities are the ones who say they want more police there and they feel like they need them in order to keep them safe. Brandon, thank you for your years out there in service. So, Rob, thank you for being with us tonight. It's great to see both of you.
Thank you, Shannon. God bless you.